and it is circulating among his private friends, his sugared sonnets. Very recently, there was a kind of lady who tried to publish an analysis trying to say there's nothing sugared about these sonnets. You know, I mean, I don't know what this means, but, you know, the sonnets, in fact, are terribly misogynistic in the woman section, in the mistress section. And there's no sweetness in it, and there's nothing sweet about it, and I'm very surprised, etc. What they have not understood, this is, believe it or not, this is the first time ever this observation will be made in Shakespeare scholarship. What they have not understood is that there was a manuscript edition of something which has now come to be known as the Greek Anthology. Believe it or not, even today, Greek Anthology is not widely published. I don't know why. It should be. It is an anthology of several hundred poems, probably 1,000, epigrams, epigrammatic poems, very, very ancient poems, you know, from classical times, pre-classical times. And there's a large section of it there's no other way to say it except say it, which is, it is pedophile poetry. In other words, it is about little boys and how sweet they are. And one of the basic images of those poems is the Greek word malakos, which means soft, sweet, gentle. It is all these things together. Basically, if you want one word, it is sweet. So now, this is precisely what this chap is referring to. He's saying Shakespeare's sweet sonnets, they are even sweeter than the Greek anthology poems, and that they are entirely, therefore, because of 126 sonnets being dedicated to a little boy, and therefore it is that which is the sugared sonnets. They are oversweet. They are not only sweet, they are even oversweet. They are almost sugared. They are honey-tongued, Shakespeare. So, therefore, you can even use this word, sweet, in the sonnets to decide, and believe it or not, this has never been understood hitherto. This is the first time I have to emphasize, underline the point. You can even use the use of the word sweet by Shakespeare to decide whether the poem is dedicated to the boy or to the mistress. You can even make a litmus test out of it. Now, I don't know how far I should go. Please forgive me. Since we have an adult audience and no children, we can go further, perhaps. The greatest advances in Shakespeare scholarship were made by linguists and lexicographers. Do not believe the professors and so said serious scholars, etc. So you see, here is one such book, the author of which, I mean, I've seen this book, I've read it, 30 years ago, and it's by Martin Green, The Labyrinth of Shakespeare's Sonnets. I think this chap is even a lawyer from America. He has nothing to do with Shakespeare scholarship. Another very huge advancer of Shakespeare scholarship is another lexicographer called Eric Partridge. Eric Partridge, a linguist, published a book called Shakespeare's Body, and it is a deliberate pun on body. The way he spelled it is B-A-W-D-Y. And believe it or not, he was the first. He came into prominence, I must tell you this story, with all apologies to my wife. He came into prominence, Eric Partridge, once he published an article in my youth, I remember, saying, discovering that the huge Oxford Classical Dictionary, you see, one of the monuments of English culture is the Oxford Classical Dictionary, of which all these little dictionaries sold on the market are just versions. So he, the Oxford Classical Dictionary records the first use of a meaning throughout English culture and history. In other words, if you want to know, so if there's a word with different meanings, it takes every meaning and gives you the first use of that meaning by giving you the source where it is published, printed, and so on. And the original dictionary is multi-volume, you know, it's huge, enormous, you know, probably takes all this desk. So Partridge was absolutely shocked to discover that the word for male sexual organs were there, but not the word for the female C-U-N-T. I'm sorry. And he was so shocked, he said, this is not only sort of untrue, but this is unacceptable, that even as far as the Oxford Classical Dictionary is concerned, the word doesn't even exist. And he was the first to have discovered, you know, people thought in his time that the word only came into being with the Victorians and, you know, 19th century and so on. And he said, hey, there's a pun in Hamlet, you know, and it's a fantastic pun. Hamlet comes, and this is in his dictionary, Shakespeare's Body, which is a collection of Shakespeare's sexual meanings. And Hamlet says in the play scene to Ophelia, when he's very overexcited, he's going to play the murder of his father by his uncle, and the uncle and his mother, they are all invited, and there comes Ophelia. He goes to Ophelia in the court and says, may I lay my head in your lap? And of course Ophelia is very upset, says, oh my lord, you know, very sort of stressed. He says, I did not mean country matters. So there is no doubt that there is the word being punned on. And so that was a great evidence that in fact it was very well known, the word, even in Shakespeare's time, let alone not be in Oxford Dictionary. I'm sure by now it is in the dictionary, although I haven't checked it. So this chap, therefore, very unknown, but I've read him, and he's my favorite. He has incredible such discoveries. He is the first to have discovered that even a word like soul in Shakespeare, the highest Christian, most sacred concept, actually is a pun. And probably I better read so that you don't think it is my own fantasy. Soul, in appropriate contexts, can mean penis, has not been previously noted, and therefore requires some discussion. The explanation of this curious equation is again homonymic accident. The Oxford English Classical Dictionary shows the existence in Middle English of a word spelled variously, soul, soul, soul with an E, and S-O-L-E, like the sole of the shoe, you know. And meaning stout